The crystalline spires of Vexithara gleamed under twin suns as Commander Zia stepped onto the diplomatic platform, her boots echoing against the polished obsidian floor. Behind her, the human delegation maintained perfect formation, their simple combat gear a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial armor of the Kethmori warriors who had escorted them here. Across the platform, General Thaxavon waited with barely concealed impatience, his forearms crossed in the traditional gesture of reluctant respect. The towering reptilian scales shifted from deep purple to aggressive crimson as he observed the humans, particularly the young woman who dared to carry herself like a warrior despite her diminutive size. The Terran delegation honors us with their presence. Thaxavon's translator device rendered his words in clipped mechanical tones. Though we question the wisdom of sending children to negotiate with the hegemony. Zia's expression remained neutral, though her companion Elsa shifted slightly behind her. The blonde human's hand rested casually on her sidearm, blue eyes tracking the movement of every Kethmori warrior in the chamber. Unlike Zia's diplomatic attire, Elsa wore full combat gear, her role as security chief evident in every calculated movement. "We appreciate the hegemony's hospitality," Zia replied, her voice carrying clearly across the vast chamber without amplification. "Though we note the rather extensive security presence for what was promised to be a peaceful negotiation." Thaxavon's laugh was like grinding stone. "Peace is a luxury earned through strength, Terran. Your species has proven surprisingly resilient against our preliminary forces. But surely you recognize the futility of continued resistance." The general gestured and one of his subordinates approached carrying an ornate case. Inside, nestled in bioluminescent foam, lay a weapon unlike any the Kethmori had seen before. The sword appeared deceptively simple, a straight double-edged blade with a plain crossguard and wrapped grip. Yet something about it seemed to drink in the light around it, creating an aura of darkness that made the assembled warriors unconsciously step back. "We found this among the wreckage of your destroyed outpost on Kepler 442, Thaxavon continued. "Curious craftsmanship. Our metallurgists were impressed by its composition. Consider its return a gesture of goodwill before we discuss terms of your surrender." Zia's eyes widened slightly as she recognized the blade. "That's impossible. That sword was lost with Captain Rodriguez when the Defiance went down 2 years ago. Nothing is impossible for the hegemony's recovery teams," Thaxavon boasted. "Though I confess we found the weapon's design primitive. No energy cells, no plasma channels, no molecular disruptors. How does such a crude tool function in modern warfare?" Before Zia could respond, the general reached toward the sword with one of his primary arms. The moment his scaled fingers made contact with the grip, the chamber erupted in chaos. Light blazed from the blade, not the clean glow of energy weapons, but something far more primal and terrible. Thaxavon's roar of pain shook the crystalline walls as he jerked his hand back. The scales blackened and smoking where they had touched the weapon. The sword itself remained in its case, but the air around it now shimmered with heat distortion. "What sorcery is this?" Thaxavon snarled, cradling his injured hand against his chest. Around the chamber, Kethmori warriors raised their weapons, energy cells whining as they charged. But it was Elsa who spoke, her voice cutting through the tension like the blade itself. "It's not sorcery, General. It's history." She stepped forward, her movements fluid and confident. Unlike Thaxavon, she showed no hesitation as she reached for the sword. Her fingers closed around the grip, and instead of burning, the weapon seemed to sing, a low harmonic resonance that made the air itself vibrate. "This is a katana," Elsa explained, lifting the blade from its case. In her hands it moved like liquid shadow, the edge catching light that shouldn't have been there. Forged by human hands, tempered in human blood, and carried by human warriors for over 1,000 years. The assembled Kethmori began to back away, their weapons forgotten. Several of the younger warriors dropped their energy rifles entirely, their hands shaking as primal fear overrode their training. "You see," Zia said, her diplomatic composure never wavering even as her security chief held a weapon that radiated menace like a living thing. "Humans don't just build tools. We invest them with purpose, with meaning, with the accumulated weight of every soul who has carried them before." Elsa moved through a brief kata, the sword flowing around her in precise arcs. Where it passed, the air itself seemed to part, and more than one Kethmori warrior swore he could see ghostly figures in the blade's wake. Countless human warriors, all watching, all judging. Captain Rodriguez wasn't just carrying a weapon. Elsa continued, her voice now carrying harmonics that made the translator devices stutter and fail. He was carrying the soul of every human who ever stood against the darkness. Every samurai who faced death with honor. Every soldier who held the line against impossible odds. Every mother who took up arms to defend her children. Thaxvon tried to speak but found his voice caught in his throat. The sword in the human's hands wasn't just metal anymore. It was history made manifest. The crystallized essence of a species that refused to yield. Your metallurgists were right to be impressed, Zia said, watching with satisfaction as Kethmori warriors continued to retreat. They just didn't understand what they were analyzing. That blade isn't forged from any material your databases recognize. It's made from something your species has never learned to weaponize. What? Thaxvon managed to croak. Elsa smiled, and the expression held no warmth whatsoever. Human stubborn. She sheathed the katana with a motion so precise it seemed choreographed, and immediately the oppressive presence in the chamber receded. But the Kethmori warriors didn't resume their positions. Several had fled entirely, and those who remained kept their distance, weapons still abandoned on the polished floor. So, Zia said, her diplomatic smile returning as if nothing had happened, shall we discuss those surrender terms? Because I have a few proposals of my own. General Thaxvon looked at his demoralized troops, then at the two humans who had just demonstrated that some weapons couldn't be understood through analysis or reverse engineering. Some things could only be forged in the crucible of absolute determination. For the first time in his long military career, he began to understand why the Terrans had never once asked for quarter. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should discuss a treaty instead. Behind Zia, Elsa's hand rested easily on the sheathed katana, and every warrior in the chamber could feel the weight of 10,000 years of human warfare watching them through her eyes. The negotiation, they all realized, was just beginning.